Welcome back to Life Lab. One of the things I've become increasingly fascinated by is what happens when an experience completely reshapes the way someone understands life, and perhaps the biggest question of all, what happens when we die? Whether you believe these stories or simply find them interesting, near-death experiences, or NDEs, often raise profound questions about consciousness, purpose, and what it really means to be alive. Today's guest is Megan Brown. Megan is an author, speaker, and founder of the website Conversations with Megan. For years, she identified as an atheist after experiencing significant trauma earlier in her life. But during a life-threatening medical crisis caused by a rare autoimmune blood disorder, she had what she described as a profound near-death experience that really changed everything. In the years since, she's written about her experience, shared it with audiences around the world, and dedicated her work to exploring the questions that emerged from that day. Questions about faith and healing and forgiveness, and the nature of consciousness itself. Whether you come to this conversation from a place of faith, or skepticism, or simple curiosity, my hope is that you'll leave with something worth thinking about. This is my conversation with Megan Brown.
The hospitalist comes in and he looked at me. He was cold and says, "I think you're a drug seeker." So then that was the first time I heard a voice that said, "Make a scene, make it big, or you won't make it out." And I'm like, okay, who just said that? Because the doctor didn't say it. I had my first NDE in my car accident. And I remember it was like, I looked at my mother and I was writing this in my book. And I said, well, it was about a year after I'd broken my legs. I spent 4 months in a body cast from here all the way down to my toes, couldn't walk. And then I had another cast on for about 4 months on my right leg because they were going to amputate them, but they did not. And then I said to her, okay, so my best friend died, her mother died, the only other two people in the car. And I said, I'd really like to just get back into acting because that's what I used to do. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh no, you have scars now. You're not pretty enough." And what was really difficult for me was that she was a photographer for like all of these famous people like Rob Lowe, River Phoenix, Joaquin Phoenix. So, and I'm hanging out with all these people, we're going to their house and everything. And I'm just like, okay, and it was just bizarre. And then today I was writing about a lady who I met when I had my store in Sedona years ago. And she's a lesbian, but she was a lesbian born in 1948, Rome, Georgia, here in the United States. She got put in prison. Then she was put in a mental institution for being gay. She told me her story, but as I'm writing it, like trying to edit it down, and I'm keeping, some of her natural voice in it, it's just tragic. And then the other woman, she's Black, had a handicapped daughter who literally passed away a year and a half ago at 33 of cerebral palsy. She was denied health care. She was denied all of this stuff. And so all of these people have been silenced, such as myself, but in various ways. And then I'm currently working with a friend of mine asking him, I said, "John, will you put a song together for the book? Because I'd really like to get a song." He's Elvis Presley's love child. Okay. Oh, wow. I've been friends with he and his wife for years. And so now he's got the DNA and he's got this new documentary coming out. And I'm just like, "John, you don't understand. It's all about being silenced." And that's exactly what you were, was silenced. He didn't even meet his dad he didn't know who his dad was until he was 27.
Wow. About how did he decide to start looking in the family tree, or what? He just told me recently. He and his wife, I just saw them about a month and a half, and they were saying that he found these letters from his mom that were sent to him because she put him up for adoption. She couldn't raise him, and so Elvis's uncle raised him as his son. Oh my goodness!
This was what he knew, was that his dad's uncle was his dad, and then he went to them and said, "What are all these letters?" They were all from Elvis. And he's like, "What is this about?" And so then they told him, because they had a very contained, restricted, religious affiliation in their family. And so, and he was from, where was he from? Like Tennessee. He was raised somewhere, Alabama, I think. Yeah, all these people being silenced. And so I also got pulled into heaven in over 200, it was actually 265 out of body experiences from the end of 2012 to the beginning of 2014. So I'd get pulled back up into the clouds. I'd get pulled back up into heaven. And I'm like, okay, what are we doing tonight? And there were all these things that I had to live, right? So I was seeing God quite a bit. I was seeing Jesus quite a bit. Archangel Michael would meet me at the clouds, goddess. I mean, it was like, okay, let's see. Oh, we're going to go see how the network is for the universe. Oh, really? There's a network for the universe. Okay. In this book, which is not copywritten yet, so I can't talk about the whole context of it, but I'm so close to being done because now I'm just laying it out for the Library of Congress to be able to copyright it. And as soon as that's done, then I'm going to start talking about this because of what's happening in our world. And I'm just like, work on the book, work on the book, work on the book. And so heaven, I say heaven because, you know, I don't remember all of their names and it's really irrelevant because basically people get so jolted around that word. And it's like, you know, I used to cringe. Oh God, we're going down that avenue. Fuck it. I'm out, you know? And so now it's like, okay, no, I can listen because I understand what this means. I've been writing about the neuroscience. I've been writing about the brain. I've been writing about the patterning of the brain and what happens because, so I have this tattoo. It's the number 3 with the infinity sign behind it. The top of the number 3 represents science. The middle of the number 3 represents math. And the bottom part represents music. Without science, there can be no math. And without math, there can be no music. So literally, the universe is a scientific equation. And there are literally codes in the universe and in grids throughout the universe. I watched him do it in heaven. Archangel Gabriel was sitting, like he was in charge of this whole thing. I don't know if there were like 30 archangels in there, something like that, but there were a number of them. And I've seen all of this. And so when I get this book done, I'm going to get back to you and say, hey, tell me how to get in touch with her because she would be somebody, because she has a doctorate, to look at it and then go, okay, because God, I forgot to tell you, God's second order to me was marry science with religion. And I tried getting out of that order. And I said, okay, but I'm not a scientist. And he says, I don't care. And I said, oh, okay, well, I'm an ex-Catholic, ex-atheist. I don't even know what the fuck to call myself now. And he goes, you'll figure it out. And so literally from the time, and I've written a little bit about the LOVE acronym. I wrote it, I co-authored another book called The Ways to God. And so the L in love represents light, which is our soul. The O represents organic because we're each organic to one another in the universe, which breaks down into organisms, which is so, this is all, I'm breaking this all out in the book. The V represents voice, and your voice is born the moment of your thought's inception. And the E in love is for echo. So everything that you think creates an energy field. It echoes in your body and outward because we are all one energy. And for years, my entire life, I couldn't understand that until I took my son to Hawaii for Christmas in 24. And we'd been hiking in the volcano on the Big Island all day, driving the island. I'm thinking there's nothing that can wake me up. And boom, in the middle of the night, Romu. And I was like, Romu? Okay, what does that mean? And they said loud and clear, advancement of water. And I thought, okay, this is profound, but you guys know I have to get up really early in the morning and my son and I are going to this part of the island and I'm really tired and I have an autoimmune thing, so I got to have my sleep. Can you wait until I get back home? On January 17th, which was my grandfather's birthday, he's already passed, and then it's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday as well, who was the second coming of Christ. And my grandfather and I had this affiliation with Hawaii and water because we were always out fishing and around water. So they gave me 2 more words, kibichi, which means to have and to hold your life together, and then atonement. And they didn't tell me what it meant. And I thought, well, that sounds so Catholic. Wait, and oh my God, Shannon, it opened up into this whole explanation of the entire universe. And I'm like, I'm getting kind of chilled right now. And I'm in Arizona, so it's hotter than, you know what?
Metaphorically chilled. When your Romu advancement of water, Kibichi,
yes,
to have and to hold life together, what else were you going to say about it? Were you going to say something else about it?
Well, they show me the words. Romu is R-O-M-U. And so what they do is they show me the words in white across my forehead. Atonement, they didn't show me the word because I already knew what it was.
I knew it, yeah.
But the other 2 words, I thought, okay, what are these? So I started looking up variations. Like, is this a Japanese word? Is it a Korean word? The kibichi, right?
Kibichi, sure.
Okay, let's see. Doesn't exist. So it was just fascinating anyway.
So when they tell you oh my gosh, so many. So this is the exploration of the universe, advancement of water. I saw water mentioned on your website as well. It makes a little more sense now. To have and to hold life together, and atonement. When they are giving you this information, who is they? And did you say you were asleep? How are you seeing these words? When and who is they? And
what they did was, as soon as they say the word, it wakes me up, and it's always the same feeling. So like I can feel it in my body, like it's a soul connection. Okay. And then while I'm awake, they show me the word written on my forehead in white. So it's like I'm laying there and I just see it written right across my
mind's eye. Like, are you looking at your body?
No, it's like I'm looking from the inside.
Oh,
seeing it on my forehead.
Okay.
It's bizarre, I know, but that's what they've done to me a number of times.
And is it the archangels, do you think, or?
Yes. So I always, every day, I am connected to Archangel Michael. And I know that he is the one. Now, my guides, as I found out, I had guides, everybody does, was Archangel Michael, Jesus, Mother Mary, El Moria, and Saint Germain. And I didn't know who the other two were. And I was like, okay. But when you show up for your life review, you get to know these souls, okay? And then they took me, back to, after that, my life review, then I had to go with Archangel Michael into his gold capsule. And then he spoke Psalm 91, the Aramaic version, over my soul. And he had his hand up. He's 6'7", by the way, black and gorgeous. Oh, God.
As he should be.
Exactly, right? Why not? A badass.
Why
not? Smoking hot. So he had this white flame coming out of his hand and it was hitting my soul. And I just cried. I was so incredibly humbled, and it was life altering. And he asked me, he goes, Megan, why are you crying? And I said, because I've been such an asshole to all of you. I called you motherfuckers. This is real.
I believe in you, all of that.
And he said, I'm here to judge you. I'm here to love you. And then I was like, oh my God, Catholic guilt kicking in. I remember that. And so anyway, he tells me sometimes God has come to me himself and pulled me into the clouds and given me messages. And I'm like, oh, we're back. This is intense, because I know it's going to be intense. He's going to ask me to do something.
Do you know if we can find out who our guides are?
What I do is, when I work with people, I call myself a psychic medium, right? But these are human terms. I wasn't this before my NDE. Yeah. And so I get a lot of information. I never know who's going to get what information. And I ask the individual that I'm connected with, I say, do I have your permission to connect us to heaven? Because I'm not allowed to intrude in your privacy. And so the individual will say yes. And then I say a prayer that I'm only allowed to remember while I'm connecting with somebody. It's always the same one. And there's a rhythm to the words. And the rhythm that when I say it and I hear the other two prayers that are always quiet, it's always about the person that I'm connected with. So the rhythm and the glitches, I call them glitches because sometimes a word won't come all the way through. The souls that I call on, there are 9, and they usually do a pyramid, Archangel Michael being at the top. And they'll show me variations of how they stand or where they're allowing me to see, from here up or from here up or literally from the crown chakra up. So this indicates a lot of variations for the individuals. I mean, here usually means you have difficulty communicating because you're cut off here. So you're not even in your full body. And if it's here up, you think a lot. That's usually what it is. And the crown chakra up has indicated, and it's not for everybody, there's no one that's the same. It usually indicates that individual works with their higher connection, whatever that is. So they call it source, they call it God, they call it Jesus, they call it whatever. I don't care, whoever they're connecting with, as long as it's love. I'm not going down I don't do anything else but love.
Right. So in those channelings, so your angels, is that the right word, is Joseph and Mary, and who did you say again?
Jesus, Archangel Michael, Mother Mary, El Moria, and Saint Germain.
So you have very well-known angels. Do other folks well-known angels that are guiding them, or would it just be family members? Or so when you're channeling, do you also, I know you described okay, if they're cut off here, maybe they're, we're here, the thinking and here kind of higher self. Will you know, I don't know who my angels are. So are you able to, do you tell folks who I can see your angels or such and such, or?
Sometimes I can, because they'll like, while I'm saying the prayers sometimes, like Archangel Michael and Jesus are real big. Okay. Like they come in, Kuan Yin has come in a few times. I'm trying to think who else has come in. Prophet Muhammad has come in. So it's like the ones that I work with all the time, like they'll step forward, but it is primarily Archangel Michael and Jesus that I see, but they always have a message, like a specific
for the person.
Yes. Yeah, it's fascinating. And so, you know, there are 1,000 archangels and 1,000 angels. So there's no way that I can remember all of their names. So the other thing is, like, sometimes I'll hear an archangel and I'll say, well, it starts with an A and I'm seeing all of these letters. I don't know how to pronounce it. And I just explain that, you know, there are 1,000 archangels. It's impossible to remember all of that. So when I say they, I'm open to all of them from heaven that are assigned. And like, there's an Adam. Okay. So I've written about this, so I can talk about this.
Yes.
So God, I'm thinking, you know, in my NDE, I thought, well, I'm sitting at God's table, you know, I'm sitting with 76 and I don't know, he's showing me the galaxy and opening up the dome at the top of the temple. And I'm thinking, so I asked him, I go, so how is it that you're here with me? And there's hundreds of thousands of people dying right now. And he said, Megan, I'm an atom. I'm as whole to you as I am to them in this now. That's how they talk, in this now. And I looked at him and I said, really? Oh my God. So
what does that mean?
So here's what it means.
Okay.
In the beginning, there was only one energy that existed, and the energy is love. So it came into a being, we'll say a being. I've seen it. And what happened, and then God's created, and then God gets bored watching the universe, and he's like, okay, you know, I'd really like a partner. And so Goddess gets created. And then there's 1,000 archangels, and then there's 1,000 angels. And these are all various vibrations of love, but I don't remember them all specifically. And they each have their own, like the angels get tuned. So they get assigned to someone. So like, in other words, when I saw Prophet Muhammad, he walked into the tent in heaven when it was after the concert, and we were all sitting at the table in the tent where I had to stay. And hundreds of angels were not floating, but they were hovering. They come in, they fly, they never stop. They don't talk. And they were all gold. And then in walked Prophet Muhammad. And I was like, whoa, we all stood up and bowed. We just knew he was so holy.
Do you know who these entities are? Like you said, you knew Jesus or God immediately. You know Archangel Michael.
Mm-hmm.
You said you just had a knowing that it was a very holy being, or did you know that's Muhammad right there as well?
Well, I'd met him at God's table. And by the way, when I sat at God's table, when I got taken into temple, that was extraordinary. I only knew who Paramahansa Yogananda, Charan Singh, and Mahatma Gandhi were. They were the only ones that I recognized. And they were all from India, right? So they're sitting on the other side of the table. And I'm like looking at everybody. They're all smiling at me, not saying a word and welcoming me, but I didn't know who they were. And then, you know, I'm smiling. I'm just kind of looking around, and I just met Jesus and Archangel Michael, and Mother Mary sitting over there. And okay, so, and then the old man at the head of the table starts talking, and then all of their eyes start looking at him. And I'm still looking at all of them like, why are they listening to this old guy? Who's this old guy? And then all of a sudden he announces, and Megan will be going back to Earth. And it was like, I like literally put the brakes on, and I went, and in my head only, I said, oh, fuck. And he looks at me, he stops talking to the whole table, and he says, oh, fuck is right, Megan. And then I said, oh my God, you're God. Oh. I was like, okay, this is so real. And I just fucked up like to the highest level. I just threw an F-bomb, right? And he looks at me and he goes, I'm not offended. It's a man-made word.
The least of the worries.
He goes, just be careful what you think and wish for, because I hear those too.
Definitely want to ask about the codes and the grids, science, math, music on the 3, and marrying science with religion, the love acronym of light, organic,
voice and echo.
Voice and echo. I was reading my word organic if I was reading what I wrote correctly. But let me back up, because I'm getting a lot of stuff in pieces, and I know you've had multiple near-death experiences, and you also have been pulled in, like you said, 200 and something times between X period and Y period. So you've had a lot of experiences. So can you, I know we don't want to talk too much about the near-death experience. Okay, well, the one I'm familiar with, and I actually wanted to, so I was gonna say, I was gonna break this up and kind of like before your near-death experience in the hospital, not maybe the one as a child, but when you had colitis and other challenges, et cetera, and then the medical crisis, and then the near-death experience, and then yes, life after heaven, and then reflection. But where are all of these things you're telling me from different near-death experiences and or different times you're being delivered this information? Basically, I just would love to hear one example of a near-death experience, because I'm hearing like you were taken into a tent and the dome off the temple was showing, and this is all fascinating. But I'm like, wait, let's back up and like when you first entered the experience and stuff. So I don't know if it's one experience or multiple. Would it even be possible to like stitch some of this together in does one near-death experience stand out that you would just want to share or like talk about from getting in? Because I just want to hear this from beginning to end of the whole experience. It sounds so fascinating from when you entered it into when you, I guess, came back to Earth. I wouldn't know how to describe it.
Yeah. So the first NDE that I had when I was 9, I was in a coma for 8 days, but I didn't have, I don't have any recollection of having been in heaven, which I'm sure I was.
And this is a car accident, right?
Yeah. When I was 9. Then when I was 17, Charan Singh, who my mother went off into Hinduism and started following this Indian guru because of my aunt and her husband who'd written a book about him, and he'd written many books about these different Indian philosophers. And so I was like, okay. One night I couldn't sleep. And I went down, and I was in high school. I was 17, and I just laid on the couch and watched TV for a little bit. And then I turned off the TV and I fell asleep. And in the middle of the night, at some point, I get sucked out of my body, like literally sucked like a vacuum through space. And I'm passing the stars, and there's planets. And then all of a sudden, there's Charan Singh's face. And all I could see was from here up. And I'm looking at him. I was freaked. And there was a hand. So it's like a picture at the screen. There was a hand down on the left corner and a hand in the right corner. And he said to me, you can come home now. And I had no idea what he meant. I had zero idea. I was in the Catholic Church, right? I come from dysfunction junction in terms of a family.
Sure.
Like, what is he talking about? I don't even know. I think I'd rather stay here because at least I know what I'm dealing with.
Sure.
So
are you just like, do you have a sense of if you're floating in space or a sense of your body, or is that too specific?
There was air. I could feel the wind going through me. Like literally, I was being sucked up, pulled up. And it was just the universe. That's
okay.
what I remember. And then I grabbed one of the thumbs and I got sucked back into my body, and I sat straight up like I was catching my breath. And I didn't even know what to think about it.
Sure.
I didn't know that was an out-of-body experience. I had no idea what happened to me. And for years, I held on to that. But my NDE in 2007, everything that I shared with you, that all happened there during my NDE.
Oh, please, share it from beginning to. So can you give a little bit of a review again of you were, I think you had either just put your, let me not misquote it. I was gonna say child to bed or whatnot, but you were having pains in your stomach, and that's how it started. And so, can you share a little bit of that, and then going to the hospital and the doctor being dismissive at first, and then kind of, the whole near death. You had to raise kind of, not a stink, you had to advocate for yourself to actually get treated and diagnosed. So maybe just a tiny bit of background of that, but then yes, all these amazing things from the beginning to end. You already said so much more detail than the interview that I saw on NDE journey of top of the temple opening and the table. So anyway.
What happened was, I was working out all the time, 3 days a week with a trainer. I was, stay-at-home mom. My son and I had just had our birthday. He just turned 4, and it was all right, bedtime. And then my stomach starts hurting, but it was not an upset stomach like I ate something weird. I didn't. And I didn't know what this was. And so I was just trying to breathe through it and do yoga on the bed. And then I'm calling my husband and I'm like, okay, here's what's happening. And I don't know what to do. And he's like, well, I'm not there, but okay, thanks for letting me know. I said, I'm just going to take some Advil. So I just took 2 Advil and tried to ride it out. Right. And then I thought, well, I'll go, try and go to a doctor tomorrow or whatever. Well, it got really serious. And then in the middle of the night, I had to call a friend to come over, and she had 2 young children, a little bit older than my son. And they came over at I think it was 2 a.m. It was really, really early. And I had to drive myself to the hospital. And I was living in Missouri at the time in the woods. So 20 minutes to a half an hour in the dark to get to the hospital.
Yes.
And they didn't know what to do with me. So they gave me, shots of painkillers, and they're telling me, I don't know. And I'm just going, oh my God, oh my God. So then they sent me home, but I couldn't drive home. So I had to call another friend to come pick me up, to take me home, because I had my car there, but I was totally gone,
I was gonna say, that should have been a sign. Well, I know you already knew something was seriously wrong, but like, okay, I can't drive home, guys.
It was bad. It was like, the doctor going, well, she's a little sauce, but whatever, she'll figure it out.
Right.
No, this was beyond. I just knew. So I got taken home, and then I'd been up all night, because of the pain. And my son was all excited, Mom, because I'd never been away from him. Mom, come out, let's go play. And I'm like, I can't, I got to get some sleep. So I slept for an hour and a half, and then I got woken up to the worst pain. And it just was so bad. So I had to get back to the hospital. I asked a friend of mine, can you take me back? The same lady who picked me up. So she just drops me off. I'm there all day, all into the night. Well, it was dark. It was probably, I want to say it was like 9 or 10 o'clock that night. A friend of mine, another friend, showed up who I just met, and she said, okay, she was talking to the ambulance drivers, and she said, if this was a family member, which hospital would you send your family member to? So they said, we'd send her to this one. She says, okay, send her there. Because I'd only just met her. So I was alone. And so it was 52 miles later, and I get put into this hospital, and then I get assigned a hospitalist who didn't know what to do with me, is bottom line what happened, because I was bloating. And then I'm like monitoring myself. Weirdest thing. Like, I didn't have anybody by my side. And so I was going, okay, well, I haven't peed. Okay, you guys, I need to pee. And I go, get me a catheter.
You're self-reporting as things are progressively getting worse. Hi, we might need to have this intervention, that intervention, right? I guess.
Yes, exactly. And so then I was like, oh my God. And what happened was, finally, I'm just constantly ringing the nurses staff. Nobody's coming in. Hello? Yes. Good. Okay. We'll be in soon. They don't show up. I was livid. So finally the hospitalist comes in, and he looked at me. He was cold. And I thought to myself, oh my God. And so I'm trying to be as descriptive as possible. I'm overly generous with information. And so I'm telling him everything, and I'm an intense type of person anyway. So I can't help that. And so I'm like, okay, this is going to help him. I'm going to tell him everything that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So he finally looks at me and says, I think you're a drug seeker. So then that was the first time I heard a voice that said, make a scene, make it big, or you won't make it out. And I'm like, okay, who just said that? Because the doctor didn't say it.
Are you hearing it like it's in your head, or almost like it's external, or do you remember?
No, it was just in my head, because he could hear it. The doctor could hear it, and he was standing right there when it was said. And so I thought, oh, well, I'm in a Catholic hospital. I know exactly what to say. And so I looked at him, and I just let it rip. And I'm not a rude type of individual, and I will never intentionally try to harm somebody or offend someone. But this was a time to learn a next level of myself, of how to do something for myself to protect myself. And so I just started throwing down some F-bombs and other things, Jesus Christ, blah, blah, blah. And he just stood there. It was like, I had a 4-year-old at home. I'm thinking, why are you acting like a toddler right now? Doctor, okay?
My 4-year-old is more mature than you. Anyway.
Exactly. And so I just watched him. I don't know if it was 20 seconds, 30 seconds. I don't know what it was, but he wasn't going to do anything. And then I thought, okay, well, I've got nothing to lose but my life, because I didn't believe in an afterlife.
Right.
I was just going to die, right?
Were you still kind of atheistic at this time, or?
Totally. Yeah. I thought I was just going to be cremated or buried, if my now ex-husband decided to do the Catholic route and bury me, right, in a cemetery.
And that was it, lights out.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I thought it was. And so I thought, no, Megan, just lay it out. And so the bed rails were up. And so I was trying to tell the doctor that I was becoming paralyzed. So from my chest all the way down to my feet, I was telling him, I can't move. I can't move. And I started shaking the bed rails and I'm telling him, I'm becoming paralyzed. You MFer mother. And I just started going, like healthcare people are walking in trying to see if this doctor's okay. As it turns out, I had gained 43 pounds of fluid in 3 days. I turned gray and he didn't know what to do with me. And so then at the end of my rant, I couldn't take it anymore. And I just said, you're fired. Get the F out of here. I said, you are so effing fired. I never want to see your effing face. I'm standing there. And I said, you have no idea who I'm related to. You have no idea what I'm going to do to you right now. And I said, and I'm going to take you down. He's just looking at me and he's like, what? So then all of a sudden, so I fired him. He leaves. Then a nurse in. I could have been her mother. And she looks at me and she goes, I'm sorry, ma'am, we don't have another doctor. I said, I'm in a goddamn hospital. You tell me how it is that you've got, over blah, blah, blah. And I don't even know. I'm pulling numbers out of the air. Yeah. And I said, I'm going to have you fired. And that'll
whatever you need to say to get it done.
I was like the battle Megan, who I'd never met before. So that's what I did. And then finally, I don't know how long went by, but this other doctor came in, a woman, and she was another hospitalist. And so what happens when you're dying, because I was dying and I knew I was dying. And what happens is that you become highly sensitive to the people who are around you. You start feeling their energy fields. You start picking up it's like all six senses are lighting up. I could smell, I could feel, I could see beyond what you could see. Mm-hmm. It's like I could see the auric field without there being any color, but I knew like the pattern, the breathing of the energy. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just looking at this lady, and then all of a sudden, because I'm scanning her, I just remember with my eyes because I couldn't move. By the time she got to me, I couldn't move. And all of a sudden I heard that voice again, same voice, and it said, you can relax now. She knows what she's doing. And I'm like, okay, I took your orders last time. He finally left. I got a new doctor. Okay, I'm just going to shut up now.
Yeah.
She looked at me and said, has anyone checked her creatinine level? And the nurse is looking through all the notes. I'd been there 4 or 5 days.
Right.
And the nurse says, no one had checked my kidneys. I was in full-blown kidney failure.
You're turning gray. You're having you would think they would start checking all critical systems of the body at that point. But
yeah. Okay. So my kidneys were shut down and I was dying. And I later found out that 90% of my body had shut down. So I was screaming at these nurses. I couldn't sleep. I was writhing in pain. They'd give me morphine, not a thing. I mean, I could feel it was just horrible. It was days like this. And I was just crying and writhing. I'm telling him, put, pillows here and underneath my knees. And finally, this nurse, he looks at me and he goes, oh my God, I can't believe you're still alive. This was 6 weeks later, 5 weeks later. And I went down to visit that floor. I had a lot of guides get me to the next floor, but
sure.
He looked at me and he goes, Megan, we didn't think you'd make it. I can't even believe that you're alive. And I said, really? And he said, we were just helping you die. And I said, well, I just came to apologize for how rude I was to you. And I said, I was so scared and I didn't know what to do. And he goes, he says, listen, I'm not upset. None of us are upset. He said, we were trying to help you. We knew you were dying. And I just went, well.
And they didn't really give any indication at the time, though, that, we don't know what to do. We're just going to try to help her die.
No, they couldn't say anything because I'm sure they have these hospital standards and.
Yeah, or liability or something like that. So At what point did you kind of go unconscious, or was it like you kind of went to sleep one of the nights and then so the experience that happened, or how did that happen?
So what happened was the next doctor who came in, she said, get her creatinine checked right now. So they had the results within the hour. And then they went, oh my God, she's in kidney failure. And so then everything changed for me. They all got nice. And they were like, oh my God, she's really dying. She's in kidney failure. So I'm sure they were thinking oh yeah, this is not going to be good if she dies, because people know. Now they know. Right. So I got taken up to dialysis, and then I was wheeled in, and I'll never forget this. I was on the gurney, and this woman, she was the head nurse in dialysis, and she looked at me and she says, do I have your permission to give you a blood transfusion? And I was like, all I could think of was when my brother and I were in elementary school, he had two of his friends. They were like 7 and 9 years old, I think, or 6 and 8 or something like this. They had hemophilia. And so they would go in for blood transfusions all the time, and they contracted HIV.
Oh my goodness.
So they died because of the blood transfusion. So my whole thing was, I'd already had blood transfusions in my car accident, right? But I'm thinking, oh, I don't know what's going on. Now I'm an adult, and now I have a child, and now I care about what's going in my body, you know? So I'm like, no, you can get diseases, you can get all this. And she said it again. We need your permission. And then I heard the voice again, and it said, just say yes. So I'm like, I don't know who this is. I looked at her and I go, yes. And then they gave me the medication, whatever the medication was. But then I was on dialysis. I had the blood transfusions. Then they hooked me up to the dialysis machine. And then they found out that I have this rare autoimmune disease called TTP-HUS. So it's a blood disease, and it means that your blood is poisoned. And so they didn't know how I got it because they tested me, and they decided, well, she doesn't have it genetically. She doesn't have it in this way and this way, the factor V Leiden, and there was something else. And she said, they all said, well, she's in the phenomenon category. So that means that they just didn't know. And so when they found that out, everybody was a lot nicer to me. And there were days, I mean, like literally 5-6 solid days where I'm on all 3 of those machines back to back. And I remember very little from that part because I would kind of like open my eyes and then I was gone again. It's like, and I remember being wheeled back into my room at one point, and the nurse said something, and I was looking around. I could still see the room, but it was nighttime. And then I was out. But then I remember walking through the clouds, and I walked into this like park setting, and it was green grass, and there were trees around, and the sky's blue, there are clouds in the sky, and the birds are flying, and to my left, there's Jesus. And I looked at him and I go, oh my God, you really do exist. Because I didn't believe in him. And he just opened up his arms like, come over, give me a hug, And so I walk over to him, I give him a hug. And then he takes me, turns me, and he goes, come on, we got a lot of work to do. And I said, yeah, no kidding, you're dealing with me. So, okay. So,
your biggest project yet, Jesus. Good luck. No, anyway. Okay.
So,
okay. One thing I want to remark on is, again, someone like maybe me who would have historically balked at the word heaven, or I'm not atheist, so I'm agnostic. And so I have this preconceived notion of organized religion and things like that. How not happy-go-lucky, but how forgiving you are about, like, if I make a joke, like, and I don't really mean it, but like, oh yeah, the biggest project, good luck, Jesus, or you don't take that so seriously, or you can joke about it. It just has this seem for anyone that may just be questioning experiences or what, more authentic. Like, look, it seems like something the real Jesus or God would not, and I don't know if Jesus or God are synonymous. Maybe it's not synonymous.
They're different.
Okay, wouldn't care about. Those are earthly things, that's man-made, whatever. So I think that is so interesting. But okay, so and I'll share, number one, I've had kidney stones in the past, and talk about morphine not even touching the pain. And it was crazy. They put me on a morphine drip, so I was nowhere near experiencing anything you've experienced. But I could just concur with kind of, oh my God, you're writhing in pain and you just cannot get comfortable. When I was in the ER with my kidney stones, they call it, oh yeah, we call that the kidney dance, the kidney stone dance, very kind of flippantly. And I'm like, I'm wondering how I'm still alive. I'm like, can the human body go through this much physical suffering? And it felt my insides were just shearing apart because the stone was going from my kidneys through all the tubing, before it even got down to the bladder and stuff. But I also had scoliosis surgery in January of last year. And so that was like an in-hospital stay and heavy sedation. And I remember there are many parts throughout that stay that were hazy. So when you describe, at some point I was kind of in and out. I think it was when you were on dialysis, you said, right? And you kind of recall, I went back, it was taken back to the room. I remember it was nighttime. And so I can just, I totally understand that feeling in a hospital. So, okay, so the experience you described, seeing the blue sky and the trees, and there's Jesus all of a sudden to the left. Is there more to that particular piece of the NDE? Because also you went to the table and there was a temple and all that. So is there a continuation of what you were describing? Did you just kind of appear, or you just have a memory of all of a sudden I'm in this natural setting? And I've heard that in a lot of near-death experiences, not to compare yours to anybody, but just people see a lot of like natural things that they might see on Earth. So I find that so interesting that it's describe it as love. And so it's interesting that there's kind of these earthly visions as well. So I'd love for you to speak to that too. But anyway, so is that just that little snippet, or is there more to that particular part?
Well, there's a lot more to it. So just to clarify, okay, so heaven looks like Earth, except there's no cars and you don't have any outlets. So everything is telepathic. And I mean, you can speak out loud too. And when they show you your life review, they don't have to plug in the screen. And like a screen can just appear, okay? So this is what's so fascinating. Now I understand why that can happen. And it literally is all around the energy of love. It is all science-based, okay? So when I got there, first of all, I didn't know I was in heaven. I just saw Jesus. So I'm kind of like, okay, well, I'm somewhere. I don't know what this is. But by the time I got into temple and, going through all this stuff, because I was, even after Archangel Michael, he goes, okay, well, come on, we have a lot of people that want to meet you. And I'm like, meet me? I said, I got to go. I've got to go back. I got to be with my son. I'm like, you guys, TikTok, I got to go. I got to get this stuff cleaned up on Earth. I don't know what's going on down there.
So you still had a recollection of, I have a son.
Oh, yeah.
So you're there, and we got a lot of work to do, kid. He didn't say kid. And a lot of the people want to meet you, and your thought goes to your son.
Yes.
And do you have like a physical sensation, I know, like of walking on something solid, or just kind of, or maybe that didn't even occur to you, or?
No, it's like I'm walking on Earth, like literally you're walking on ground. So it's interesting because if you think of Star Wars, 1976. Okay, so by the time I got into heaven, like after I go through God's table, it is literally the bar scene in Star Wars. Okay, there are souls from all of these different planets, except it looks like just Earth. I mean, I saw apartment buildings. I went to God's house. There's concerts, I remember swimming in the lake. I mean, it was just horseback riding one night. It was like,
how long were you there? Do you feel estimated Earth time? And also, oh my gosh, like one of the interviews on My Embryonics podcast, which yes, I'll send all that stuff to you, because she, being a neuroscientist and such, I think would love to talk to you. They literally described this. They described like, guys, it's like Earth. They might have said concerts even. They said, saying they, I don't remember if it was one of the men or women she interviewed. She's done several of them. They said, oh yeah, first of all, it's just all good, the good parts of Earth, number one. And if you want to go do this, do that. So you're just I went swimming, horseback riding, concert. So, okay, because I just had a vision of, it's just so exciting. It's super exciting to hear. It just gives me hope. And I hope anybody else that listens to this, hope. Guys, this is real. So anyway, all right. So to go back, I just had a vision of you meeting Jesus, and then you go to this, you meet these people, you're sitting at a table, you get some download of some information. That's another question I have of like, you have instant download of info, or is it talking? And tell me, we got a lot of work to do, someone to meet, people to meet. When are you going to the concert or the horseback riding or the swimming or the whatever? Is that before or after you go? You're seeing the apartment buildings. Are you in a car? Are you walking? So just, try to go super sequentially. If like,
okay, so, all right, I'll try to do that. So after I figure out that this is God, okay, then I realize I'm in heaven. But I knew that something powerful had happened the moment that my foot stepped into that temple. I knew I was somewhere else. I thought, whoa, what just happened here? Because look, it felt great walking into this planet. I didn't know where I was, right? I mean, I kind of like, am I in heaven? Am I in purgatory? I don't even know, I'm going Catholic, right? In my brain. And so I didn't know, but oh, wow. I knew something powerful was happening. When I set foot and I walked in, I felt like I was floating, and I was walking on the ground, and all I could see was this giant oval gold table with all of these souls sitting around it. I didn't know who any of them were except those three. And here's my guides walking in before me. Jesus held the door. I walk in, and then Jesus walks in behind me. And then it's like I'm just taking it all in, not knowing what this is all about. I mean, it just had my life review. Archangel Michael just put Psalm 91 on my soul. And I'm going, okay, now this is like a whole nother level of And I don't even know how to describe this. And so, I'm just thinking about it right now. It's like, because I was a mom, right? A 4-year-old, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. So I'm cooking, I'm doing and so I'm so used to being, and I'm the eldest of 4 children, and 2 of my brothers are like a lot younger than me. So I was changing diapers in high school. Okay. So I had to know what was going on. And so when I walked in temple, I did not know what was happening. So it was almost like this, how do I allow myself to just experience what's happening?
Sure. Yeah.
So it was very, I'll just say it's interesting. So then I had to walk around God's table 77 times, because I just remember walking around and around, and everybody at the table had a message for me. And there was one, this wasn't the first one, but I wear this white feather that I found, because all of a sudden here I am standing in front of White Eagle. And I'm like, oh, White Eagle, that little book, The Quiet Mind, my grandmother gave me when I was 14 years old, because she knew my mother switched off into Hinduism. So she was very Catholic. So she was trying to keep up with something, whatever. And so I looked at him and he said, Megan, when you come across a white feather, I want you to ask yourself, are you doing or are you being? And I remember, my face said everything, because I didn't know how to answer that question. And I thought, oh my God, I got to know the answer. And he looked at me and he says, no, I don't want you to answer the question. I just don't want you to forget it. And to this day, I have never forgotten it. Literally about a week ago, this little tiny white feather was attached when I was out picking weeds. And I'm like, oh, you guys are talking to me. They give me little signs every once in a while. So that was very, very powerful. But I remember.
What does that mean? Should we be being, or should we be doing? Or you said don't even answer the question. It doesn't matter. What does that mean?
So over the years, it has evolved for me. I thought it was either or. Like I have to be something, or I have to do something.
Right.
So as a Catholic, you're being a good Catholic, and you are doing right by God by being. I'm just using that example.
Yeah, sure.
It was like, okay, in other words, I had to pick. It was black and white, right? Black or white. That's not the case at all. Not the case at all. Because in one moment, you can be doing and being. So like right now, I am doing and being simultaneously. I am doing the act of love by having a communication with you and being myself. And so there's nothing more powerful than just being yourself. So that's how it has evolved for me over time. There are moments I know that, as you know, because it's just been 19 years now. And over this period of time, it's been like, oh, wow, how was I feeling in that moment? What did that mean? And so I'll break it down. I'll do my own analysis of whatever it is that I've just been through and just determine what is the message? What is the underlying message here? And it's not about the person. That's what's fascinating. It's not always about the person that you're dealing with or people that you're dealing with. There is an underlying message always. And so
just like a situation that you encounter in life, or
Yeah, we can say situation you encounter in life, using that as an example. So and this wasn't lately, by the way, this was a while back, but it was an opportunity for me to, rather than become reactive to that individual's lie, because the individual lied to me. And I'm thinking, why did you lie? Like, what is that all about? Why would you even think that that's necessary? I don't get it. Didn't understand it, but I didn't get mad. And so what I did was I looked beyond what was actually taking place in this regard. Okay. In this example, what I knew was that this person was not, because this is what it said for me. Okay. This person was not comfortable enough within themselves to say otherwise. So that means multiple things. You can go to their childhood, because we all start there.
Sure.
You can go to how they have processed their own life up to this juncture. Why does this person feel so insecure that they would not want to be themselves with me? I'm not judging. I'm just noticing.
Sure.
I even responded with that, like, wow, you would do that? It was self-confessed lie. And I was like, but why would you do that? Now I can't take you seriously. Like I can talk, sure. I don't know what's true, but I'll listen. And so it was more like, okay, if I'm going to interact and have conversation with this individual, I'm going to have to feel. It doesn't mean that the person is a bad person. It just means like, I've got to use my discernment now, knowing what I know about the individual as to whether or not I'm going to allow my energy to be extended to them or not. And for how long? If it's a phone call, hey, how you doing? Great. Yeah, just busy working, writing, and how are you? Oh, good, working. This has happened. Perfect. There's nothing more to say. I've already called the individual out and they know that I've seen through it. It's just kind of like, okay, well, I give you applause for still showing up and making an effort. I mean, that's nice. You don't have to, but I would do the same. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
And so I interrupted so you were going around the table, so I interrupted the experience. So white feather?
Oh, white eagle.
White eagle.
White eagle.
That was the one of, you said not the first person that had a message for you, but so you're going around 77 times and you're getting various messages.
Yes. And the first message that I do remember, besides God, okay, because God's first order to me within the first 5 minutes was tell everyone acceptance is synonymous with love. He gave me the first order. And I was thinking in my human mind at that time, I thought, okay, yeah, I can do that. That's simple, right? Okay, that's not simple. Even that message has evolved for me. What has happened because of that message is it takes the sting out of your pain in life. So when you can show up, and I was just listening to a woman, a doctor who was on Mel Robbins. I just started listening to her like 6 months ago. I'm way late in the game. But anyway, this doctor was fascinating. She said, how the humans are wired. Like we are wired to attach.
Attachment, yeah.
And so I was listening.
It's a burden. Attachment's a burden ultimately, right?
Yes. And that's what I was thinking in my head. I just saw this the other day and I thought, well, that's interesting. So maybe that's one of the messages that I am to, because I know what I'm writing in my book. And I'm definitely not attached to the pain of my life and how I used to feel around it. I can now look as the observer. I always, when I teach my course, these different courses are always about the love acronym, but there are variations of the course, right? So when I'm doing this, I am teaching how to be the observer of themselves without any judgment. It's not allowed. Judgment's not allowed.
That's hard. Observing yourself without judgment. Wow.
So this is, I go deep, and it's like, it's like you show up to class, you have an hour with me, I'm doing the talking. I don't want to hear the questions until the end, and I'll be happy to answer anything. But what I find to be very interesting is that people are saying things like, how did you even get to this level, to even step into this mindset? Because what I'm teaching is don't get attached to the events. They were actually very necessary for you as they are for everyone, because we're not here. Karma is not a punishment. Okay. So, I've seen like your dogma ate my karma. I saw that when I was a kid and I thought, well, that's hilarious. But now it's like, well, that's kind of funny on a whole different level.
Right. Sure is.
Yeah. And so now I look at karma and I'm like, oh yeah. Okay. So here's what's happening. Karma is not about coming back because you did something wrong. And yet at the same time, it is coming back because what you did, it doesn't matter like what the act was in terms of how it was wrong. Okay. What matters is that you come back and correct it energetically. And in doing so, you have to find love. And until you can get to that energy, have no attachments. I mean, yes, you have attachments. Like I have an attachment to my son, right? I have an attachment to my dog. I have an attachment, to my chickens, right? So like I have attachments to my friends, but I just had a friend pass away, very good friend of mine. And this was June 3rd. And when I found out, I didn't cry. I was like honoring the fact that that individual showed up in such a pure, authentic, real, genuine way in my life. And I was just so incredibly grateful. And I also knew that, okay, their time on earth is over. They didn't have to do anymore. They've already corrected everything. I'm still going. You're still going. But that's what we're all doing, is we're correcting energy here. Because you've heard the saying, we're all one energy. Have you heard? Okay, well, it didn't make sense to me before this. It made no sense to me. I'm like, oh yeah, right. Okay, whatever. Well, it makes perfect sense because, oh yeah, I get it. We're all one energy. And because we messed up in this form, right? This body that we come in, oh my God, we got to go back to that planet again. And we got to do this again. Fuck, okay, can I pick my body this time? Oh, I've got to pick that too. Literally, you've got to pick how you're going to show up. I didn't believe it until God himself told me, you chose 3 lives in 1. Because I said, why the fuck has my life been so difficult? And he said, you chose 3 lives in 1. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Can I ask you about that? I wrote down, do you think, or do you know, were you told that we come back time and again to Earth? And then yes, coupled with that, are we tasked with, I've heard it described as a series, miles long contracts, sub clauses, different I'm agreeing to this and this and this and this and this knowingly. I know I'm coming back under all these circumstances to maybe correct energies. The way I've heard it is learning different lessons and such. So did you gain knowledge of that? Is that a thing? And then one other like more pragmatic question with that is, this is another one like I was explaining earlier, where I've wondered, well, is this all just the brain having, chemical reactions or whatever? And I said that one interviewee like said something that satisfied me. I was like, okay, no, it's not that. My question with that is, the sun's going to burn out eventually. And I'm probably thinking about this so like narrow-minded, like I don't have all the experiences that you've had. The sun's going to burn out. There is not going to be any more Earth. What happens then? How can people keep coming back to Earth? But there's a whole universe. It's such a nuts and bolts pragmatic question that I have. Reincarnation, maybe it's not that. Keeps happening. Energy keeps coming back and deciding to come back and choosing the life. And what happens when there's no more Earth to come back to, when the sun burns out? The Earth is dead. And that makes sense.
So to answer that around the sun, that energy, love's energy never dies. You cannot destroy an energy. And so science has already proven this. So energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. So the energy of the sun, so I describe it like this. Remember the number 3, science, math, music.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the entire universe. Okay. So the music of the universe is that energy at a perfect pitch of music. And I kid you not, I have seen the gold harpsichord in like what they consider the center of the universe. So, because that was in one of my out-of-body experiences that they showed me that one night. And I was like, what? What is this? I was open to it because I'd already had plenty.
Sure.
Right?
Right, of course.
They didn't tell me where we're going. Okay, this is on the schedule for tonight. They just like, you're here, great, come on, And I'm like,
the schedule for tonight.
That's what it was like.
Right.
So the sun and earth will never be destroyed. Now, what will be destroyed is humanity. If humanity doesn't get their heads out of their asses, and I'm not even saying that lightly, I mean that with absolute sincerity, because what is happening is that it goes back to judgment. It goes back to segregation. It goes back to division and pulling people apart from who they actually are. And until humanity says, no, that's not who I am, and steps up as their authentic self, as the loving being that they were actually born as, perfect love, despite the karmic whatever of backgrounds, in previous lives, doesn't matter. You're still born as perfect love. So if you step into that role, nothing else can destroy you. Now, we know that the Neanderthals are, 73% of our DNA matches the Neanderthals. I can't remember the specific number, something like that. And the only reason that they became extinct was because they were given the Star of David, that's what we call it on Earth, okay? But really, it's the 6 points. They mean love, it's universe, air, water, fire, metal. Love.
1, 2, 3, air, water, fire, metal.
So all of the elements.
Yeah, that's 6.
And the first element is love, because without love's energy, none of it could exist. So in terms of the sun, did you know that there's water in the sun? There's
maybe vaguely, but yeah.
Yeah, so I just started getting into this, writing this book, because the water is so significant in everything that I do because of my NDE and my out-of-body experiences. I'm like, okay, so I've had to be on this quest, quest for knowledge. Like, okay, but how do I talk about this in human form that it can be tangible for the mind, So I've been doing all of this research. And so anyway, Neanderthals only became extinct because they didn't follow the procreation. They were happy beings. They were like totally chill. They were loving beings is what I've learned from my out-of-body experience, but they just didn't procreate enough, and then they just went away. So, and it's like the dinosaurs. Okay, well, that didn't work out. Okay, let's try humans. And so that's what you see. So it's another way of, this isn't Land of the Lost, okay?
Right.
So,
can I ask a question? Land of the Lost. Never thought of that. So like dinosaurs, Neanderthals, humans now, or whatever. So is it Jesus's, God's, love's, the universe's attempt to why are these different? Why are they being created, or are they scientifically evolving into it? I don't know, like dinosaurs, scientific. First of all, are things evolving into these things? And then also, what is the purpose? It's to correct.
It is to correct, but here's the thing. We get sent here. Okay, every planet has this same exact order. And that is, okay, we've got to keep love alive on these planets. So
Are there
remember,
multiple planets with multiple, obviously not like human, but like beings?
yes.
Okay.
Like, literally the bar scene in Star Wars. So imagine.
Oh yeah, duh. Okay, you said that.
Like all the clarinet players, right? Okay, so
Yes.
so then there was another planet where there were walruses, because I was speaking to a general one night in an out-of-body experience, and he was head of his army, to protect his planet. So there he was with his wife in heaven now. And so we were having this conversation around how he showed up to protect love, because Earth is very slow, as I have found out. This is what I was told.
Uh-huh.
They're like, okay, you guys are slow, second to Pluto. And I'm going, really? Like what? That's the densest? Oh, yes. So getting back to an earlier question that you had about how many days I was in heaven.
Thank you. I need to hear more of what else you learned while you were there and saw. Yes, please.
So it was 15 Earth days, and that's 5 heaven days. So I didn't know when I called my book 5 Days in Heaven, a catalyst, my 5 days in heaven. I was just having communication with heaven. Nobody was talking to me about this. My therapist didn't know what to do. She was like, okay, I don't know what to do with you. She knew me right before, all of this happened, and thank God I had her, because she was helping me by just listening. And she literally told me,
You say, I'm going to send you to a psychiatrist now. I'm just kidding.
Didn't, no, but
no, I'm kidding.
No, it's true though. I mean, people really do struggle with a way of thinking, a way of being that doesn't get compartmentalized into something that they know, because that's what makes humanity. So getting back to the attachment, we also attach to ideals and ways of being, right? So we're attached to, well, I call myself a good Christian. Well, I am, Buddhist. I am a tree hugger. I don't care what you are. I mean, are you being a good person? And I'm not dissing anybody. Look, if you're showing up and this is how you need to show up, I'm showing up my way. We're all doing it for love. That's the bottom line. So I'm not being critical of anybody or judging anybody. I'm just using this as the example.
Sure. Yep.
Because it's important to reassess, getting back to like, what's the point here? Well, the point is we have to keep love alive on this planet. But how is it that we're supposed to fight through all of this negative energy that's going on and all of these horrific acts that are being done and the realities that are coming up and surfacing in social media? Well, we have to make some new decisions, don't we? And this is where it's like, okay, humanity, we don't have to follow the old guard. I'm not about it. Okay. This is redunculous. It has gotten us. We are a dog chasing its tail. It started thousands of years ago. So
can I ask you this? I've often, and is this going too long? Maybe just like 20 more minutes, or is that okay? Or can I, oh my gosh, okay. Because I want to ask about the codes and the grids and the science and the math and the music and a few other things. One thing I have struggled with is, I think a lot of folks out there might resonate with is, like you said, we're chasing our tail. It's time to make some different decisions. Billions of people on this planet, all with such varied interests, so many governments, so many, as you said, segregation, differences, folks holding on to ideals. It seems an impossible task. So something major is going to have to happen. I'm curious what your thoughts are on kind of this whole disclosure stuff related to other beings and things like that. But something major has to happen to get people to wake up and row in the same direction. And there's two, it almost seems just defeatist of like, how's that going to happen? There's too many varied personal, monetary, power, whatever interests. No one's going to get on the same page. It's like you need a world loudspeaker to be like, it's called the internet, I guess. I don't know, to be like, guys, stop the insanity, like Susan Powder back in the 80s and 90s. How is that going to happen? No, I'm not saying maybe you have to, I'm not expecting you to have the answer. How, will it be possible for humanity to get on the same page? Can you share if you have any information of, will there be a major thing? What is this about the disclosure of, beings visiting our planet? I'm assuming they're just from other planets, but instead of us meeting them in heaven, we'll meet them physically, and maybe that'll be the catalyst. Loaded question, a lot of questions in one question. Does all that make sense? Can you speak to any of that? Sorry.
Yeah. So okay, let's see. I'm going to start with, I had to watch the world review. Okay. So as I was sitting next to Jesus in heaven, it's like the life review, except it was the whole world. So the first one that I watched was about the Native Americans in the 1100s. Okay. And how the English, and then I've said this to some people, I've shared the story and they say, oh, well, it was the Spanish. I'm like, here we go. Okay. So anyway.
I wouldn't know, period. So, English sounds good to me.
Okay, so I just saw it in heaven, whatever.
Yeah.
So the English said, oh, there's land there. Oh, wow. Yeah, I want it.
Right.
I think I want that. You know what? You're going to go over. You're going to take it. Oh, yeah, sure. Negotiate, whatever. Okay, we're going to take it. We're going to, yeah, this is the United States.
Yes,
okay.
Sure.
The Native Americans get slaughtered. I had to watch this from heaven and I am sobbing sitting.
And you're seeing it on one of these screens.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was horrific. Yeah. So then the next world review that I had to watch was World War II. And I know that was my last life. I was in the Holocaust and I can still see how I died. I can still hear the voice that came to me in the moment that I was transitioning. And it said to me, just relax and breathe. We're right here with you. You're almost done.
Oh my gosh, when you were transitioning in the Holocaust,
yep.
When you were dying.
Yep, I was 28 years old, yes. So I remember that. But anyway, I had to watch it from heaven. I couldn't believe I'm beside myself. So like the things that I post about, everything's about love, but I will not let the Native Americans, the messages that I get, that I see, that come across my way, I will not let anybody forget that. I will not let anyone forget World War II. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, there was an interaction that I had with a woman who was one of the twins in the twin experiments in World War II, mm-hmm. age 9, in Mengele's care in Germany, and mm-hmm. her twin sister, because he didn't use any anesthetics. So he was performing surgery, okay, no medicine. Everybody suffering to extremes that you and I can't even imagine.
Sure.
And she and her sister were holding hands. I got an interview with this woman. It was only a few minutes long. She was in her 80s and she started to cry. You know, like I could hear it in her voice. She just started to tremble and she was very soft spoken. And what she said to me was, my sister and I were crying and we were screaming and we were holding hands. And then my sister died while I was holding her hand. And I sat there on the phone and that was when she said, I'm sorry, I can't talk anymore. I have to go. And she just gently hung up the phone. So I called the woman who got the interview because she was Jewish. And I said, here's what took place. Thank her for me because her voice will never be forgotten. So I'm sharing this story now, and I'm also sharing it in my book because it's very important that humanity does not forget this. And I'll tell you why after I tell you the next world review that I saw, which was about the civil rights movement. So here I am watching, crying still. It doesn't get any better, okay? And the moment that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, threw my hands up over my mouth. I looked at Jesus and I said, oh my God, we've murdered you twice. That was the second coming of Christ. So I have shared that and people are like, oh, okay, so that's what you saw. That's what you think. That's the energy, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. I'm just telling you what I saw. Like, because after I was raped when I was 20 years old, I became an atheist. And I declared to the universe, oh, if there's a God, yeah, well, he's going to sure as hell have to show up and like prove it to me. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to believe this white light fantasy bullshit, not into it. No thanks.
Right.
Really. So I got the hardcore facts. And so after I watched that and I was crying and crying and crying, and I said to Jesus, I go, I'm so angry. And he goes, how do you think I feel? I mean, he was the one who was murdered. That was the second coming of Christ. So, okay. So then Jesus takes me in, drops me off in temple with God at God's table again. And God asked me, he said, what did you watch? I'm the student, right? So I explained and he says, how did it make you feel? And so I explained and I told him, I'm so upset and here's why. And I'm angry. And he looked at me and he said, okay, so what are you going to do about it? I said, there's nothing I can do about it. It's already happened. He looked at me, and I will never forget this. He said, that's the problem with humanity. You do nothing unless you're directly affected. The world right now is being directly affected. Absolutely, right now, everyone's being directly affected. And what I know is coming, oh, you better be prepared. I mean, I wrote about it in my first book. When I've shared it, heaven's finally they're telling me, yeah, just don't say it anymore because people aren't listening. They have this need. Here's the problem with humanity as well. This is all of us, okay? We have this knee-jerk reaction to have to know something. You have to know the answer. Well, I know this because I read it here. I know this because I read it here. Okay, well, I know it because I was in fucking heaven, sitting in front of God, watching all this shit with Jesus. So I'm not trying to like one up anybody. I'm telling you.
You're not trying to prove anything here.
No, I already know what reality is. Reality is we don't know what love is. And that is the only thing that is going to help our humanity change and shift. And that's the reason I am so excited about my next book, because it's literally called The Structure of Love. Okay. So it's not religious in any way, because religion, God's first order to me was tell everyone acceptance is synonymous with love. His second order was marry science with religion.
Yep.
Those are the two keys for humanity right there. That's it. So, if you feel the need to step up and be right about who your God is, ask yourself, is your God going to approve of you killing these people just because you can? Is your God going to approve you of giving pedophiles a hall pass because you have the power to do that? Is your God, that you go and pray to, is that God going to tell you, oh, that's perfect? Yeah, no, you should be killing Black people. Yeah, no, hang them. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Why is that happening in 2026? Hello. So back to my point of these world reviews. There has been a common thread throughout humanity. It's the same story, 3 different times of life. And the Holocaust was really close to the civil rights movement. They were only 20 years apart.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's pretty chilling. But what people need to wake up to is that there was no acceptance. Greed was the deciding factor. Intimidation and fear are the deciding factors. Religion has been shoved into people's faces, as it was with the Jews and the Holocaust. Oh, no, you can't be Jewish. I've just decided. Yeah, I don't like you anymore. I don't know why. No, get rid of them all. No, forget it. Kill them. Oh, I don't care. Okay, that is what is happening right now on a global scale. And I'm just going to say, and I do not, because heaven will not let me follow what's going on with the children who've been abused and sex trafficked. They told me, they're like, no, that's not your lane. That is not your lane. You can speak to it, because I do not condone that. I think it needs to be stopped, but I'm going to do it in a way through my book, because believe me, they have a voice in my book. Okay.
Sure.
This is not, no, it's not okay what's happening. So that's just one thing. Okay. Now where was it? I saw something or read something recently. It was in the past month, and it was around, I think it was here in the US. I'm not even joking, around how they're trying to get, it was here in the US. I saw they're trying to get Christianity as like the main religion.
I think I saw that as well. I can't remember where, but yes.
Okay. That is the same as Hitler.
Sure.
Don't tell me it's any different. It's not, because what Hitler did was say, oh no, it's Christianity. Well, Hitler was a Jew. Okay. I watched things in heaven nobody would want to know here. They'd go, no, that couldn't have happened. No, that couldn't have happened. So I don't even share some of the stuff because it's so far out. And so it's like, well, no, it did happen. And he was Jewish. You don't remember, like, he murdered his town where he was from? Like, he bombed the whole place? You don't see the similarities of how he said, no Jews allowed. No, destroy them. Oh, you're an outcast now. And we're going to tattoo the numbers on you. And we're going to say, nope, not allowed. Can't talk to them. Nope, can't protect them either. Nope, we're coming after them. We're just going to kill them because. Okay, it's the same thing happening at a different variation here in our lifetime. And I am so, I know that it's not about getting angry. Okay, anger does nothing. There's no clarity in anger. The whole point in bringing it up and discussing it is not to, sour anybody's experience with an NDE or what you're trying to provide, but it's to say very plainly that, look, I may have lived as a Catholic. I've lived as an atheist. I have lived in heaven for a number of days. Okay. And I've had many, many experiences there, but I cannot sit back at this juncture, at this time of my life, and say,
Right.
oh yeah, it's all about God. And it's all about, well, it is. And I don't care, what you want to call him. It is all about God. Under Allah, under Jesus, under Buddha, I met with all of them. So it's like, okay, you know what? They're all on the same team. That's what I missed. The integrity of love is what I witnessed. And that's what I'm so passionate about now. And that where the sadness comes from in me is that too many don't understand what's happening, but it's our own fault. Because look at, I forget who the parent was in the 90s, and they said, or was it the early 2000s? I don't want my child saying the Pledge of Allegiance in school. You can't mention God anymore in school. Or this school, no, you can't come here because you're not a Christian. You're not a Jew. You're not a Muslim. It's like everybody's still being tracked and traced and defined as being worthy of because they follow this.
Right.
Well, this is where humanity has to break. We have to break, and we have to open up into the expansion of ourselves, into a higher level of self. So getting back to the brain, you said something earlier, which was, I forgot about this, but when you think about it, okay, there's this thing called phrenology, about it in my first book. And I learned about this in an antique store, okay, many years ago. After my NDE, I found it to be so fascinating because here was a doctor studying the brain for 30 years and breaking it down. Oh, well, here's the spiritual area. Here's the language area under the right eye. I don't remember all of the different places, but anyway, so here is somebody documenting. Well, then that gets put into this charlatan circus act and it gets removed, okay, from society. And what I find to be interesting is that it is already stated in science. They don't know about the brain.
Mm-hmm.
They do not know about the brain, and they are correct, because in heaven, you use the entire brain. So getting back to, is this a medical thing that's happening to the brain when you're having an NDE? Is it a medicine? Is it, okay, why not hold on to the scientific fact that humanity can't even explain the full functioning of the brain?
Right.
And so what's happening in a near-death experience, and those who have literally died and then come back to life, I didn't flatline, okay? But 90% of my body shut down. But a near-death experience is near death. I was this close, literally. And I can describe death now, because I can literally describe it. But what happens is your brain, I already described how I could smell when somebody walked in. I could read them just looking at them. I could see this breathing of an energy around them. It was all of the senses lighting up within me, activated in ways that we are not taught to be activated as humans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to bring this about and an understanding in my book about this as well, because it's very, very poignant that each of us steps outside of this religious context, okay? And again, I'm not dissing religion, but I am saying, let's rethink it, okay?
Or maybe all of the baggage that comes with man-made religion, or not saying man-made religion, is that kind of part of it too? Maybe there's a lot of peripheral negative connotation around it, and or maybe religion is used for totally nefarious I don't know.
So I believe religion, it defines people, okay? And in defining a people or a culture, you have some sort of an all-knowing. Okay, so we know that these people need this. It's a mindset. I'm trying to say this is all a mindset. I've seen how Catholicism was created. They were destroying the Jews. And so getting back to your brain question, it's humanity has to quit thinking they know everything. In that one out-of-body experience that I had, I was sitting next to Moses on this park bench out in this huge park area, and across—
This was one of the 15 days, one of the 15 Earth days.
No, that was the NDE. This one was an out-of-body experience.
Okay.
This happened in 2013.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I've been paying attention to you since your NDE. And I said, you have? Because I met him back then. And he said, yes. He said, I find it fascinating. You don't stop talking about love or heaven. And he said, you'd be surprised at how many NDEers don't talk about it. Well, wow. I didn't have any judgment on that. I was just whoa. Well, I said, it's changed my life so significantly that I can't stop talking about it. And it's everything that I am now. It's love, and It's this wanting humanity to know the truth of themselves, who they are. Humanity doesn't know that, because humanity is like, it's kind of like, I'm trying to think, I can't remember what this one story was called, but it was by Dr. Seuss. So everybody's on this planet going, what did he say? What did he say? Right? Okay. Hearing something from another planet. I can't remember the whole storyline. My son was young. So it was fascinating because, okay, that's kind of like what humanity has done. Well, what are they saying? How are we going to be accepted? Oh, we have to do this? Okay. But they're doing it sincerely. I've done it. I am a product of it. Even in my atheism, it was a stance. Atheism is a stance, just like Catholicism.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're claiming a belief. Now I'm like, it doesn't matter. All I know is that love's energy rules everything, and I don't care. Like, you can call it whatever you need to call it, but I'm telling you that it's love, and that's what needs to be identified in every school throughout our world, or we are absolutely going to be removed from this planet.
It seems we're at a tipping point, and just like you saw past things throughout either the NDE or these continued out-of-body experiences, where you showed future events, and not to the point, I'm not saying like, oh, are you a prophet and did you see what's going to happen? Like, not to be all that specific, but like, we're at a tipping point. So do you know of anything? Like I said, there's billions of people here. In order to get everybody's varied interests, some based in love, some based in nefarious, mostly based in nefarious, I feel. Maybe I'm a pessimist there. To get everybody on the same page, something's got to happen. So were you given information about an event that will happen, and or if we're going to go extinct, blow ourselves up, I don't know, do all the souls just go back to source and we're fine still? And who cares if we blow ourselves up? We're going to go back to
yeah, but think of how many people don't believe in that. Like, what I also, it's funny. So there's a couple of things I can say. One is that I find it interesting that those who are afraid to die, who will step up and do nothing and say nothing because they don't want to go against, the collective's belief system or whatever. Right. Yeah, people are being killed for doing this in peaceful, okay? And we cannot allow our voice, our peaceful voices, to be silenced, okay? We just can't. And stay dedicated. And for those who are religiously, aligned in a certain aspect, what are you afraid of? I mean, the Catholics themselves, it's, there's, I don't know, dancing angels. I don't remember what their story was. But
I find it ironic. People that are apparently devoutly religious,
yes,
apparently they truly believe in this. Why do they feel the need to bear down on and or in the name of religion do X versus it's going to be, according to your religion, it's going to be all okay? Like,
so religion, it's like, what I'm getting at is these people are afraid to die. So they won't rock the boat. They won't rock the boat because not all, but some, okay, will not rock the boat because they don't understand what their afterlife is. Okay. You have been, with this dogmatic, this is who you are. This is what we do. This is how we go. This is how we show up. This is, and you're to recite this. Okay. Well, that's like the military. Okay. You're just showing up as like, you are militant in a way, in a religious sense to what it is you have been raised with. But that is not to blame anybody. Okay, that is to simply point out that those that are doing this to their children, that's how they were taught. Okay, so it goes back generations. Right. Okay, so we are at a breaking point. Okay, and I could see future events. The only thing that I can say, because they would not let me remember all of the stuff. I remember crying at the end of my life review. I was already crying in it because I had to relive everything. It's painful. So at the end, my guides asked me, they said, what are your thoughts here? They were asking me to see how I had evolved in the experience of the life review.
Right.
What was I comprehending at this juncture? By the end of the life review, I was crying because they were showing me future events and I had to come back and live them. And I just like, I got this feeling, and I remember looking at them and I just said, this too shall pass, because that's what they kept saying to me throughout my life review. They would pause it and then I'd be crying. And then, I was like, oh my gosh, blah, blah. And they would say, this too shall pass. So I finally understood what that meant. And I say it back to them with certainty that it would pass. Now, getting to the future, I will say this. I was called back into temple again while I was there in my near-death experience in the 15 days, right? 5 days in heaven that I called it. And I had to meet with Bach and Mozart. And I'm like, okay. So once, I don't remember. I think Bach was on my left and Mozart was on my right. I don't remember. Anyway, so they were showing me things and they kept telling me, okay, things are extinct. We want you to think about Latin. So I had to take Latin when I was a kid at the private school I went to. Well, it's an extinct language. Okay. Then they started talking about tribes. They started talking about religions. They started talking about coins. I didn't understand this. I had no idea why I'm meeting with these two, but this was what I had to do. So then they said to me, they said, save food, save water, save seeds, and save coins. That's it. So all of a sudden, boom, God appeared. The three of us stood up, we bowed. He indicated to sit down, but looked at me and said, Megan, please step forward. And of course, this is like, oh my God, here he is again, literally God. What is he going to ask me to do this time? And so he said, okay, so what did you watch? I always had these follow-ups with him while I was
right. These debriefs.
Yeah. So I told him, and then I started crying. And he looked at me and he goes, why are you crying? And I said, because I feel like I'm on the worst. Oh, wait, what was it? I feel like I'm on the toughest job interview of my life and I don't want to fuck this up. And he, like, I was crying, sincerely crying. Like, I did not want to mess this up. And so he put his hands on my shoulders. He leaned forward and he kissed me on the forehead. And he looked at me and he says, I've hired a pro. And I was like, what? Like, why are you talking like this to me? I don't get this. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Can I ask, why do some people come, do you know why some folks' soul's energy come back? You came back. Was there a point where you were given a choice to come back?
No.
Or
no.
All of a sudden, did they say, you're going back now, Megan?
Oh, no.
I think you said that when you were in the temple and the table, and eventually maybe they said it was time, or maybe not, I can't remember.
Well, no, God told me while we were sitting at the table, he goes, and Megan will be going back to Earth. There was no, hey, do you want to stay? No. It wasn't like that.
Did you have a sense then, number one, because I don't want, we have to, if you're willing to have a part two, I would want to have a part two, but just let me try just a couple more questions. I want to be so sensitive to your time. You've been talking to me for 2 hours. I could talk a whole Did you have a sense, it's been 5 heaven days, 15 earth days, but my son's back on Earth. Like, did you have a sense like, okay, at this point, I get it, I'm in heaven. I do not want to go back. So like when they said, and Megan's going to be going back now, like, oh my God, that sucks. I don't want to go back. Or have a sense, I'm just thinking in like my body right here on Earth, like I would totally be aware of like, oh yeah, this much time has passed and I like totally get where I am right now. And no, I don't want to go back to that other place. I mean, I'm aware, like my family's there, my kid and stuff. Anyway, did any of that like occur to you? Was that like as real could be here? And was it hard to go back? And do you know why you might have been sent back?
Well, I know now why. And so the one thing that they kept saying to me, and God announced it first while I was sitting, after I figured out it was God, right? He said, you will be writing a book. And I said, but I'm not an author. And he said, I don't care. And I said, okay, but I'm not an English major. And he said, you'll figure it out. Again, it was like that type of talk with me. So everybody's just looking at me. They're like, she'll do it. Yeah, she'll do it. So I wrote the first book and I thought, okay, well, there it is. I'm done. I finished it in 2015. Okay. It sat on my computer. I didn't even publish it until 2022. And I got a visit from heaven and it was a silhouetted male with one of the Jewish like hats, the round.
Oh, hat. The round, sure. Yeah. The bigger round one.
And he sat down next to me on my bed and telepathically, and he would shade himself. So I don't know which one it was. Okay. And he said telepathically, put the book out. You have until, I think he said November, because it was August when this happened. I just simply said, okay. I got up, went to work, did my thing. 2 days later, oh, that's right. Kevin, you came to me. So what did you mean? What? Put it out. What? And they're like, the book, Megan, put the book out. Oh, wait. Oh my God. How am I going to do this? I don't know anybody. I don't know how to do this. And so then I just started figuring it out. And so within a month and a half, that book was published. And then I thought, okay, well, it's done. And then I put out another book and it's just called Love's Recipes. And they were daily thoughts about love that heaven was telling me to write during my divorce, which was not a very loving feeling in my part because of what I was going through. But they said, we don't care, just do it. So I did. So then I just thought, okay, But then when I had that interaction in Hawaii with my son in the middle of the night, my son was sleeping in the living room. I was in the bedroom. And oh my God, it's changed everything. And it's all about the water. And that's what this next book is about. It's literally, it tells everything. So this is the structure of love. And it is going to give the directions, the instructions for humanity to correct itself. And I kid you not, it literally the instructions of how to revamp ourselves. So think of us like
Light, organic, voice, echo.
yes, we are an energy. So I describe it as, okay, we are love's energy. Every one of us, the entire planet, the entire universe is just love. That's it. We're all this energy. And so think of it as one big giant networking system, right? So you're in a company, let's say you're at NBC, and okay, everybody's computers are all linked to the motherboard, okay? So there's one motherboard. Well, that motherboard is love's energy. It never blows. It's totally perfect. It's all of the computers that are attached to it who have the people on it or whatever planet they're from going, I don't want to do this anymore, fuck it. And they do their own thing because God gave us free will. So there are no rules of how you choose to make decisions. So that, and one of the things that Archangel Michael said to me in a meditation, he said, complacency. That's humanity's problem. Humanity's problem. Okay. So then I was curious, like a year ago in meditation, I go, okay, you guys, I'm working on this book, right? And I said, okay, so I grew up Catholic. So there were the, 10 commandments and then all the sins. Number one, that's all, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I said, okay, so what's the worst sin? I mean, like, what is the worst sin? Is it killing somebody? Is it committing adultery? Is it lying? Is it? And loud and clear, they said, to not love yourself. So the network system of the universe you're a part of as the computer that you are, you have to love yourself to match the motherboard in order to get back and stay in heaven. And so, we all know what heaven, right, stands for. Some people cringe and they go, religion. It's not a religion. It's not a religion. It is a destination, and not one of them. I mean, I sat with so many religious deities, I couldn't understand. Like, I don't believe in any of you. And for years, I just couldn't talk about it. I only started talking about this like 3 years ago. And it was 19 years ago that it happened. I didn't know how to do this.
Can I ask you what happens to like a Hitler, or are those not, and again, like if you were not given this information, like no worries at all. But if you were, please tell me, are they not the beings coming back to Earth to live another life and correct things, and they just screwed up and didn't get it right the first time? Instead, I don't know, I'm just making a guess here. Maybe like demons, or do demons even exist, or devils, or there's angels? Is there the antithesis of that? And is that what this is? Or is it a test that God has sent to humanity? Or is it just one of the beings like you or me coming into this physical vessel to give it another try? But they're doing like horrendous or maybe on the grand cosmic scale, it's not viewed any worse than somebody throwing and punching someone. They're like, oh, well, Hitler had a bad go of it, but he's going to get to come on back, whatever soul went into there. I'm probably not using the right terminology. Or it's like, no, there was not somebody in there trying to come back and live another life. And
a disk can get erased in a computer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So think of the soul. The soul is perfect love, but there are laws. There are heaven's laws, God's laws, universal laws. There's all these different laws. Okay. And they have to check off all of the boxes, which, by the way, the boxes, you mentioned agreements, people have with you. I signed an agreement, and I would not have believed it unless God pulled it out to show me, because I didn't believe it.
This is so fascinating.
He showed me, he goes, look, you checked off all the boxes and you signed your name. And I'm like, oh my God, like, whoa, what the F? But anyway, I got it now. But so that is true. So Hitler came in, he knew he was going to have things happen to him. But what does happen is that people have the choice, free will, free choice, right? You can determine how to live. There comes a point where a soul has basically forfeited love. They have sold themselves to the dark side. So we'll just use Darth Vader as the example here. Evil does exist. It is, all it is decibels, okay? Remember I talked about the pitch, the perfect pitch of love. The perfect pitch of love, sure. Yeah, so you go down below the love's pitch, then you're dealing with lesser decibels, right? So then it calls in and it does different things. It's working, it's just energy working at various speeds, right? So it has
like
to be
vibrations. When people say like different vibrational frequencies, almost like that.
Yep. That's it. And so it's like that. And then so I don't know what Hitler's, I would imagine that he like checked, he screwed up big time. Okay. But what I will also back this up with is he was also the inspiration to humanity to come together.
Ah, sure.
So he was very poignant in how it was pivotal that humanity shifted. And so the Declaration of Human Rights, which I've written about in my first book, and it's going in this other book, that was, I always think of Eleanor Roosevelt, but there were like six people who did it. And I don't remember their names. That is what we all need to be following. Why is that not being followed?
Right.
Okay. War crimes are happening right now.
Right.
Okay. Children. And that whole Declaration for Human Rights, that was to protect children so that nothing like that would ever happen. And what are we looking at? Gaza. Pick a place.
Anywhere on earth.
Yeah. So it's very tragic. So I believe that he had a purpose. He had a purpose. And I think the elevated purpose that we need to discuss is, all right, he made us all wake up. He did.
Yeah. Seems like now we're doing a 360 headed back to that direction. Not a 180, but a 360 headed back to that.
It's exactly what's happening. And this is what I find to be so sad, is that humanity, where I watched it from heaven, no one, I mean, by the time people stepped together for World War II, that's because everybody was directly affected. But with regard to the Native Americans and the Blacks, it's not in my backyard. It's not happening in my family. What do I care? It's across the world. What do I care? Okay, well, that's the problem. We all need to care about everyone's well-being. And it's true. We really do. Because this is the only way that we can correct and teach.
If one set of folks is hurting, pick a country again, away from I'm in the United States. That is going to impact me. There's going to be a ripple effect. And just because it's not, and I'm having those epiphanies as of, that's why I think I'm going on this kind of, maybe it's not existential, but search for this information. I know it will make a ripple effect for sure. And it's just not, it's almost like, I don't know, again, not to get political or anything, but like socioeconomic issues in America or any other country. Like if a large portion of the population is hurting financially, or it's going to hurt everybody. Or if everyone's not prospering, eventually it is going to have a negative effect on the greater whole. It might not be immediate, it might not be tomorrow, it's going to have that. So anyway, so that's what I'm thinking, something major, a major world event is going to have to happen again, like World War II, not saying World War III. I know people, we're already in World War III. I don't know. Something is going to have to happen that is, unfortunately, it's in your backyard now. That's going to kind of make people pivot, maybe.
It's happening right now. Like we're already in Nazi Germany right now. I have friends who are totally in support of what's happening.
Right.
I do not speak about my political views. I'm not political. I just remember what I saw in heaven. And I'm like, but this is shades of, like, in big ways, of World War II and the Civil Rights Movement and the Native Americans being derailed in life. So I don't get how you don't see it. But see, this is where humanity goes, no, I'm right. Humanity always does this. No, I'm right. The only thing I'm right about is love. That is the only thing I'm right about.
Right. You're not worried about being right about anything. You're not probably worried about being right about that. It's just, all right, guys, this is what I observed. So take it or leave it type of thing. Are you walking by yourself?
I was walking
by myself. In a what? Like, what are you seeing?
So I just remember seeing the sidewalk in front of me.
Okay.
But it's like, it's nature all around. You know, you don't see cars, you don't see airplanes, you don't see any of that. So it's just like going to the country.
Okay.
There's people. So I see the shadow approaching me in front of me, and I looked up and it was Freddie Mercury. And I no, and he looks, I go, you're Freddie Mercury. And he said, yes. And he says, how are you doing? And I said, I feel horrible. I'm in kidney failure on Earth right now. I'm in so much pain. I don't want to go back to Earth. God told me I have to go back to Earth. I was like trying to get the ear of Freddie Mercury. Talk to God.
Influence God. Yeah, sure.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Like, go all angles here. Get the musician, right?
Right.
So he looks at me and he says, do you want to go have some fun? And I said, yes. So we go in my direction. So he turns around and we're walking. So he leaves me in this amphitheater, the outdoor amphitheater. And I'm wearing my robe, my toga. I call it a toga. I don't know what else to call it. So everybody's wearing that, right? All from different planets. And like, some are like dead, quote unquote dead, and some are endy ears, right? So the show starts, but it was Spike Jonze and Billy Barty. And Billy Barty, I had met twice on Earth because I grew up in North Hollywood. So I tried selling him, a raffle ticket when I was 10 at McDonald's. So I had this conversation with him. So then I see him again when I was I think I was 31, something like this. So I walk over to him and I said, I've got a bone to pick with you, Mr. Barty. Well, he couldn't recognize me. I said, it was 1970, whatever it was. And I go, you refused to buy a raffle ticket to my chili cook-off at St. Michael's and All Archangel School. And he looks at me. Okay. He and his wife, they just started laughing. Then they got, because I was so serious. And so we talked for a little bit. And then shortly after that, he passed away. So I saw him in heaven, had a long conversation with him as well. But so that was the opening. So Spike Jonze, his daughter and I, that's who put me in the ambulance when I went to go to the hospital at the very beginning. So here they are. And then the next act was Ella Fitzgerald with Cole Porter. I love Ella Fitzgerald's music and I have the same birthday. So I was like in heaven, literally, and
figuratively.
So then the band after that was the Queen band, Heaven's version. It was Terry Kath from Chicago, Rick James, Marvin Gaye, Buddy Rich, and Freddie Mercury. And I am telling you, it was epic, okay? It was so incredible. And I just remember dancing and smiling like I have never done before. So it was after the concert, everybody who played on stage, they came back to my tent where I had to stay. And this is when all of us were seated. It was after Prophet Muhammad. Remember how we talked in the beginning? He walked into the tent. I met him at God's table when I got to heaven. He came in, gave me orders. He had all the angels. Then we all were quiet. It was so powerful what had happened. And Marvin Gaye broke the silence and he said, Megan, you have to go back and speak for all of us. You know this is your last life. You don't have anything to worry about. And he said, we're all protecting you. We are all helping you. And I just was like, oh my God. So then they all gave me stories. And it was so incredibly moving. And so some people have heard this story because I've shared it in podcasts before. I never thought anything about it. Like I never, some people say, well, why is she name dropping? And I didn't, you have no idea.
It just happened to, you're just explaining what happened matter-of-factly. You're not consciously like, I'm going to say that you're just describing what you saw and what happened. I presume.
Yeah. And I didn't think anything of it because of how I grew up. So it was like not an issue, right?
Yeah.
So I need to say that they are all so pivotal in movements in this life. So if you think about Freddie Mercury transitioning at the height of his career,
right?
Okay, from being hetero to homo, huge at that time. Okay, it's still huge, not as bad as then, but then Billy Barty, I didn't know this. He created the Little People's Organization so that all of the little people could get equal pay to the other actors.
Right. Another major happening to help the betterment of humanity in general.
Yeah. And Marvin Gaye, 1960s, he was the voice through music. Rick James, well, he was doing his thing. Ella Fitzgerald, well, Cole Porter, they were all a part of, the civil rights movement. Every one of them. And Terry Kath, well, he was the, singer of Chicago. And think about their music back in the 60s. It was very pivotal, some of their music
during that time.
A political way. Yeah. So anyway, they just all said, just do it. Just go back, say it. What do you care?
That is incredible. And I was just thinking again, like the neuroscience of it. Oh, is she seeing all these? It's interesting. She's seeing all these folks that she has a familiarity with in life or on Earth. She knows of Rick James and Freddie Mercury and Billy Barty, but it makes sense because these folks were involved in all of these major time periods and in major ways. Most people fade into obscurity. They don't have an impact on pop culture. They don't have that megaphone voice, but a celebrity does, or a whatever, Bach and Mozart, and they're from a completely different time period. Like they're not necessarily on your radar, like maybe these more modern days. So it makes sense that you would be encountering these figures they're all major versus maybe obscure folks that had no, everyone has an impact. Be careful here with the language, but you get what I'm getting at. It's like, okay, I'm reasoning to, yeah, it makes sense that you're meeting these folks that have had impact and notable voice to influence or be part of major happenings, events, etc. in this experience here on Earth. Is that why you think maybe these major you were encountering these major figures? Or did you already said, oh yeah, there were some NDEers and dead people, I guess people that are not experiencing near-death experience and are going to come back. So I guess you met just the common folk of heaven too, just like everyday folks, like you saw them.
You know, I mean, it was like, you know, we were just hanging out, dancing together at the concert, and here I am with a bunch of dead people that I knew of, right? But the whole point is that I believe now is that they were to be my inspiration for what it is that I'm writing right now, because what I'm working on right now is the one book. Like, hands down, this is the book they were all talking about. Because even when Prophet Muhammad left my tent, okay, before Marvin started talking, he looked at me and he said, put the book out. Jesus told me that. Archangel Michael told me that.
You were told that about your other book too.
Well, I thought it was that book, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, yes. Oh yeah, well, they did. They came and they said it in 22. Yeah. I thought that was the only book. It turns out it's this third one, that this is the book. I know this is the book.
When are you going to be putting the book out, estimated?
I wish I knew, because now I have to find an editor. I have a woman who is going to look at it for me, because she's a psychologist and it needs that type of perspective.
Sure.
It's written not so many variations. There's just so many approaches in it. And I guess you could say it's very in the head. It's a sophisticated, intelligent. It's not, some light, fluffy thing. However, it's not to push people away. I mean, I talk about my life, personal things. It's like a diary. And, I'm sharing it. And there's the whole reason for sharing it is my NDE. Like, now I get it. I understand why we're here. So my hope is by the time you get back from Japan, I'll be done with it. So we'll see.
I want to talk about it then. And all these other topics that you mentioned, you were staying in a tent in heaven. And we need to fill in some blanks there. So, listen, thank you so much for talking to me. And do you want to mention anything else about, so you have a third upcoming book, your website as well, just anything, can you just run down a list of just anything to mention of like, yep, I'm doing this project and find me here and please connect with me here or anything like that?
Yeah, I just posted another event that I'm doing. What did I call this one? It's called, Who Did You Become? Or something, it's along those lines. I just posted it yesterday. But anyway, it's all about love, but it's like a conditioning of humanity. Anyway, that starts September 1st. I believe it's September 1st. But they can find it on my website, conversationswithmegan.com. And I also do a channel for heaven. It's just love's messages. It's not a religious thing, but I do work as a psychic medium and I teach courses. So yeah, and everything's about love.
I can't wait to talk to you again about light, organic, voice, and echo, the love acronym. I know this conversation is going to give people a great deal to think about, and I hope it opens folk to getting on the right pitch. Thank you. So grateful. And thank you so much again. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
All right. I'll reach out to you again soon.
Okay. Have fun in Japan.
Thank you. Bye.